The Moral Sayings of Publius Syrus. It is a story about a slave who earns his freedom and lives a very fulfilling life. It's a, it's it's a translation, so it's kind of the actual work itself is the story of Cyrus. Um, Cyrus. I'm just gonna call him Cyrus. Kind of the names are kind of weird for me, so his name was Cyrus. Um, he was seen as very witty, um, and he became a slave when his hometown of Syria was taken over by Rome. All right, so he's living his life. Then Syria gets taken over by Roman Empire, becomes a province. He is a slave. He is very witty and very, very attractive. Um, and it doesn't have a lot of dialogue, really. It kind of just shows you a brief summary of how he was as a slave. Um, for example, in a discussion where his master was having dinner at his house, they were amused by his fairness, which, like, he was a good looking dude. And on top of being a good looking dude, he was very funny and witty. And these rich people, the masters, asked him what renders a response insubordinable. So pretty much saying, like, where do you, like, what I got out of it is, where do you where do you draw the line, Sirius? Because he apparently was very confident. So they were like, how do we like what, like, kind of just saying, how do you know when to stop? And he says, I know the man who can't take it has the feet of a Golty man, pretty much a man who can't support himself. So pretty much he said, if you feel offended by what I say, you're just like a grouch or not having fun. Anyway, his master likes him. He gives Sirius liberty. He gives him an education, and he told them that the affectionate of a freed man is a son acquired without the aid of nature, which is implying that he was very thankful for his freedom. Probably always hooked him up. And then where does he go from there? He's a freed slave. You got a little bit of education on him. He goes to Italy, and he becomes a mime. But the mimes were not really what you're thinking of, like mimes. They're like performers, I guess. They did plays, they did skits, and he studied under Labirius. This is pretty interesting to me because it says that he found his love in performing. Okay, and after he got so good at it, they started doing a thing where they just freestyled it. Um, and then he follows Labirius, who uh, through this is from the writing. Through aiming to amuse people, he desired to instruct them, sought to blend useful truths and noble maxims in his entertainment. So the way I think about it is kind of like Disney, how they're always like, they show like all these movies with like powerful female characters to kind of like encourage girls to be more independent. That's kind of like he kind of started that. I mean, I don't know of any earlier tales of that, but he literally says he wishes to instruct them by entertaining them, in a sense. And Sirius followed him closely, and they got really good at it. So just I'm imagining in Italy he became kind of like Disney. People would come to see him. They're really really good. A family message. Then Caesar, when he got into his dictatorship for the second term, he did like massive games, and in the games, you see that they had all types of performances, and he specifically sought out Sirius and Liberius to come out and perform over there. And the game's kind of interesting. Sirius arrived and challenged everyone in a trial of wits. Of course, he beat everyone, so he was like a beast. Like the way in my head I imagine this is like it was like a freestyle battle, or like, like just they're just super performing with each other. And Sirius was the best. He was the most witty, the most clever, most attractive. He was like in his prime. He owned it. And then Caesar commanded Liberius to perform. And keep in mind, Liberius was a knight who was older than Sirius. He was like 60 at the time. So for him to be forced to perform was a disgrace. Liberius comes out and kind of tries to make people feel bad for him, and he's like, "Oh, I'm old, I'm gray, I'm just a shadow, I'm a hermit crab of myself." The way it was described in the text, he feared Sirius, like he knew his competition was so, like he couldn't compete with Sirius, and then Sirius came out, everyone liked him, and then that's that. So after you hear this story of a slave earning his freedom, becoming an entertainer, and then being like the best entertainer of that time, you have a list of just sayings that he did. For example, I'm gonna go through a couple of them and just talk about what I feel about them. A chaste wife rules her husband by deferring to his wishes. A chaste wife is like a virgin wife, who's like very noble, and she doesn't give her man sex, I guess, and that's how a woman controls a man. That's what I got out of that. He was also very like equal. He was like Sirius. You know more about Sirius through his quotes, through his moral sayings, than you do about the story, because the story is kind of like told from a third person, but these are like his sayings. And he talks a lot about love. He talks a lot about equal rights, and he talks a lot about friends and anger. He also had a quote as "We are all equal in the presence of death." Also, he it would seem like being rich was not all that it meant out to be. That's what I got out of this. Like when his master was, he referred a lot to like his master, and he learned a lot from his master, and he's like, when my master is angry, it's because misfortune fell upon him, or fortune fell upon another. But if you're me, if you're like Sirius, you got nothing to lose. I don't own land, but I own myself. He kind of owned himself, and he was the first one to do it like that and do it big, I guess. Even when we get what we wish for, it is not ours. So maybe he achieved that type of power that a rich person would have at the time, but even still then, he feel like it didn't own it. I feel like, how modern day celebrities hate the fame sometimes. Ally the anger Ally the anger of your friend by kindness. Apparently anger was a big deal back in the day. You didn't want to be with the angry dude because they're seen as reckless and dangerous. To do two things at once is to do neither. To kind of just stick to one thing. He also spoke a lot about habits and how habits are very important. An angry lover tells himself many lies. Do not find your happiness in another's sorrow. Love knows what they want, but not what they need. A god could hardly love and be wise. A master is scared when he fears whom he rules. Confidence, like a lover returns to him. Oh wait. Okay, I think that's 10 minutes. But there's pretty good stuff. I recommend it. I like it. I could kind of keep going, but it didn't seem like a lot of parables. It was just like a lot of moral sayings on how to become successful. That's what I got out of the moral sayings of Publius Caesar, and I really enjoyed it because it wasn't so narcissistic like the ones that are about the rich and powerful emperors of like Marcus Aurelius or stuff like that. It was interesting to see how he lived his life, um, and I got a pretty good message out of it.